Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. And welcome to a Scout Report segment on none other than the man who is on everybody's lips at the moment, James Rodriguez, of course. And for this show, I'm thrilled to be joined by Madridista Lucas Navarrete, who is the chief editor for the Real Madrid blog and podcast, Managing Madrid. Warm welcome to the show. Lucas, how are you?
Thanks, James. James, thanks for having me. I'm doing fine in the hot Spanish weather right now. Even in early September, it's still very hot here.
Still very hot. Well, I'd love to say that I was the same here, but it's dark, cold, and rainy here already, and we're only into September, so it is what it is. We have to live with that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's probably what James Rodriguez is going to have to adjust to when he moves to Everton.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, of course. That's actually one of the many questions I was going to ask you. First of all, is with no Premier League experience, James Rodriguez, can you see him adapting well to playing in the Premier League?
Yes, but mainly because Ancelotti will be in charge. I would have more questions with another club, another coach, but Ancelotti knows the player very well. He's had him in both Real Madrid and Bayern. And not only does he know him, he also trusts him and definitely showed that he's willing to build a team around him. So I would be concerned about growing pains in the Premier League with another club and everything. But I'm fairly confident about Ancelotti's not only willingness, but also his ability to mask some of James's weaknesses as a player for the Premier League. With other players or with a different system, maybe. I'm definitely sure that Ancelotti will find a way to make him work.
That's very promising to hear you say that, Lucas. And of course, we'll touch on that as well. Carlo Ancelotti, of course, is a former Real Madrid manager. How is Ancelotti himself viewed by the Real Madrid supporters?
Wow, he's a very important figure for Real Madrid. I'm fairly sure that 90%, if not 100% of the fans really love Ancelotti as a figure, as a coach here.
He won you La Decima, didn't he? So
exactly, he won La Decima in his second season, even though it was the season that got him sacked at the end. Real Madrid fans understood that the team had so many injuries that year that it was very tough for Ancelotti to perform better, really. But that squad, those 2 years he stayed in Madrid, was not only a very successful tenure for him, but also a joy to watch. His team was definitely a joy to watch, and quite probably one of the best teams I've watched for Real Madrid in the last decade or so. Those 2 years I saw Real Madrid playing brilliant football, definitely.
Of course, Carlo Ancelotti's become very, very popular with Everton fans since he joined. He is one of, I think, as a Real Madrid supporter, you could probably agree, he is one of the best managers of his generation.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with you. He showed me some very interesting decisions during his tenure in Madrid, some very tactical and important decisions. Really, he was precisely the man who turned Modric into a central midfielder and not that attacking midfielder figure that he was with Tottenham that much. And he took some very important and bold decisions for Madrid. Also, mainly after Xabi Alonso's departure from the club, he used Toni Kroos as a defensive midfielder, which is a little bit surprising considering he's not that kind of player. And the team still worked very fine and got some very interesting and important results with him. So he's definitely a manager with a big reputation and, as you said, one of the best of his generation for sure.
It's very promising that he actually left his mark on the team. Like you say, the Casemiro, Kroos, Modric set up in midfield is still it's very similar to the way it was when Carlo, and I think he moulded the Real Madrid team like that. And do you think that benefits him when it comes to working with James Rodriguez? He clearly rates James very highly, and like you say, I think he'll find a place for him in this Everton team.
Yeah, definitely, because in the end, he played with a team that you didn't expect that midfield to work that fine, because he didn't have a pure stopper or a pure defensive player in that midfield. Casemiro was still very young, and when James was with Madrid during Ancelotti's second season, Casemiro was playing for Porto on loan. So it's not that Real Madrid had this defensive presence in the midfield to cover James, and yet that team worked brilliantly and defended well. So Ancelotti definitely proved that he can build a system that, even though you don't have that player to mask James's deficiencies, you still have a system that works well and definitely covers some of his weaknesses as a player, because he's obviously not a very defensive-minded midfielder. Yet that team still didn't struggle defensively. So that's mainly because of Ancelotti's work.
You say that. What other weaknesses does James have?
Well, I say that his weakness mainly is his pace and his ability to face very tough pressing, which is it might leave you a little bit worried, considering that obviously in the Premier League you face some very tough and intense pressing from the opposition. But and obviously it's a very quick pace, the one you play in England. But again, he does have a brilliant left foot, which allows him to pass and break through the opposition and find the striker for your team. So while he does have that weaknesses in terms of his pace or his defensive work rate, I do think that Ancelotti will find a way to make him work in whatever system he decides to implement James in.
That was the next question I was actually going to ask you, is what is his best position and what formation system suits him best?
Interesting. I'm not sure about Everton's current roster now, and I'm not willing to predict where Ancelotti will use him. But my favorite position for James is as a central midfielder on a 4-3-3. With obviously you would need some players, some defensive players to press for him, because he's not going to do that kind of job. But that's my favorite position. He has that freedom to operate and create in the midfield if he plays as a central midfielder on a 4-3-3. A classic number 10 role behind a striker would also be fine if Ancelotti is willing to use that kind of role, even though it's not that much relevant in the current era of football. We know that these attacking midfielders, these number 10, are not that often used as they were 10 years ago. But I'm more than confident about saying that I believe that Ancelotti will use him as a central midfielder. He can also play as a right winger, but I believe he could struggle a little bit more there in the Premier League, because wingers in the Premier League, exactly, wingers in the Premier League are required to work hard and to help the fullbacks and also to be very fast and dribble and create through that flank. So I'm not expecting James to play in that position, even though his left foot allows him to obviously deploy some brilliant crosses to the box and all that. He can play there, in fact, but it's not my favorite position for him. And even more so considering his weaknesses and the Premier League and the style playing in the Premier League. That's not my favorite spot for him.
I think it's interesting you say that he could play very well in the midfield if he has a hard-working defensive midfielder to press for him. We've just brought Alan in from Napoli. Which I think is to take on that role.
Definitely. Then I'm 100% sure that Ancelotti knows that James is a better player when he has freedom to operate and when he has freedom to create, and when other players can take care of the defensive duties that every team needs, because you need to have someone taking care of the defense and the defensive system. And I'm sure that if that's the case, and Ancelotti is willing Alan to be that kind of player for Everton, I'm 100% sure that Ancelotti will basically give James freedom to roam and create, because that's where he's best at.
I think that's very much what Carlo's got in mind for this side. I think you say that he can maybe roam a bit more if he has the likes of Alan and Abdoulaye Doucouré behind him, it seems. How has he played most recently for Real Madrid, though? What was his recent performances like? Of course, he didn't play very often under Zinedine Zidane, but...
Yeah, well, he didn't play very often. It's a little bit of an understatement. He was just basically not involved, not a single minute after the pandemic. And before the pandemic, he struggled a little bit with injuries early in the year, and he basically didn't play after. In 2020, he hasn't basically played, and he played as a right winger some of it in early this season. Not very encouraging minutes from him, if you ask me, but I don't blame him. He basically knew that he wasn't going to have a very relevant role for Madrid this season, and it's important for him to have confidence and to have reassurance and know that he's going to be a relevant player no matter what. And he was given just basically garbage time, as they call it in the United States. He was very deep in the bench, and it was very tough for him to perform that way. So I'm not blaming him for what I saw from him during this season. I just think that he basically wanted to leave a year ago, wasn't given that kind of chance because he basically had the opportunity to join Atletico in Madrid, and Real Madrid's board were not that enthusiastic about that deal, just because they thrashed Real Madrid 7-3 in the preseason and stopped that deal. In that moment, they said, "Oh, well, this Atletico team is going to be strong. We don't need to give them James and improve their squad even more. Let's try to find a new deal for him." And it didn't work, and James ended up staying, though it's obviously a wasted season for him in that sense.
It's a wasted season. Could the lack of match time have affected his game, maybe? Or will he bounce back?
Yeah. I would say that it was more a confidence issue, because he was training with the squad, he was fine, and James is not a very physical. He doesn't rely that much on his physicality and his physical fitness. He's more of a confidence player who needs to have again this confidence and this reassurance to try different things, to be bold on the ball when he has the ball, and not care that much about turning the ball over and having the coach behind questioning your turnovers or your decisions. He's this player that struggles a lot when he's playing afraid, quote unquote, and he was playing that kind of role, a very conservative role for Real Madrid, you could tell. So it's not, to me, it was more of a confidence issue than fitness.
I mean, it's an interesting one, because we've had a couple of players like that at Everton in the past, and it doesn't always work out very well, which it's not very encouraging, of course. But he's also had a poor injury record, hasn't he? Like, what kind of injuries does he struggle with?
I've heard that from some of you Everton fans recently, since this saga started to break out. To me, James is not an injury-prone player. Maybe you can take a look at his injury record and say the opposite. I think his last few years in Real Madrid maybe affect this record, but I just think that when he was feeling some kind of minor injury, he wasn't willing to risk that much for Real Madrid, knowing that he wasn't going to be relevant anyway. To me, he's not an injury-prone player, and I don't think you guys should be worried about his injury record. He's not. At least he hasn't been that kind of player from what I've seen. You can obviously look at the data and say and be a little bit worried, but you can. To me, you need to take that with a little bit of salt and be a little bit cautious about that data, because he wasn't a relevant player, and he's obviously, those players don't need to rush back from injuries and risk a bigger injury if you're not going to be relevant anyway.
It's a good point. And also, of course, the less game time you get, the more likely you are to be not match sharp and maybe pick an injury up. So maybe it's a case of he needs regular game time, perhaps.
Yeah, and he needs regular game time and the feel of being an important player and a star player for your team. When you feel you are important for your coach and for your teammates, I'm 100% sure that he will be willing to risk injuries, to rush back from injuries, because he feels that the team needs him. And in the end, although that's a little bit risky, rush backs from injuries and all, at the end, that allows you to not to miss as many games as you would in a normal situation. So to me, it's all a matter of confidence and the feel of being a relevant player for your coach, in my opinion.
I think he'll definitely get that with Carlo Ancelotti at Everton.
Definitely, for sure. Again, Ancelotti is the one coach that he pretty much forced Bayern to accept that loan deal for James when his career at Real Madrid started to go a little bit downhill. And you gotta feel that Ancelotti is very confident about James's chances of becoming a relevant player for his team, and even more so now that he needs him more in Everton that he needed him in Madrid or Bayern. You know, I think James has the potential to be a star for Everton, and Ancelotti will definitely give him the keys to his team. I mean, you have to believe that, because I truly believe that James has the potential to be the best player in Everton, and even more so coached by Ancelotti. So I'm fairly sure that Ancelotti will give him the keys to the team. Then we will see if he adapts well to the Premier League or not, or to his teammates and the style of play in Everton. It might be difficult for him not to have the ball for 70% of the time, as he used to have in Madrid and Bayern. And we will have to wait and see if he adapts well. But it won't be confidence from his coach won't be an issue.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing we found. Carlo Ancelotti is a very, very good manager, and he looks after the players very well.
Definitely. The players love him. The players love Ancelotti. I think you could tell that by when he visited the Bernabeu with Bayern, every coach was hugging Ancelotti and very happy to see him again. And he's truly a remarkable man. There can be a debate about his coaching skills. I truly believe that he's one of the best in his generation, as we talked about before. But about his overall, he's a truly remarkable person. As a person, he's truly great.
We've heard a lot about this as well, and Everton fans absolutely love Carlo. I think it's brilliant to hear you say that, because every person who speaks about Carlo says the same thing, that he is such a great person. And of course, he's become very well liked at Everton very quickly, and the players he's bringing in are encouraging as well. We'll finish with that anyway. With finally at 25 million, I think the price is for James. Are Everton getting a good deal?
To me, you're overpaying a little bit. To me, I think you could have gotten him for 15 or 20, in my opinion, because in the end, he was an expiring contract. His contract was going to expire in 2021, and Real Madrid were pretty much forced to find him a new club. So I think that if Everton were to push a little bit harder for a 15 million, 20 million range, I think they could have still gotten the deal done. But on the other hand, I'm fairly sure that James, I've seen a very good attitude from James and very good ambition from James. When he's willing to play, he really wants to play. And I'm fairly sure that on the other hand, maybe you're overspending a little bit in terms of the fee, but maybe James is now willing to take a little bit of a salary cut from the contract he was getting in Madrid. So maybe you're balancing that a little bit. So it's definitely a good deal from overall perspective. I just think maybe Madrid would have still accepted 20 million instead of 25. But overall, I think it's a great deal for Everton. Marketing wise, this is a player who would put you on the radar in South America. James is a big star there. I'm telling you guys who run an Everton-based webpage, that you are going to see an increased amount of clicks from Colombia, and they will start paying close attention to the development of Everton. And I think this is a big deal for a club of Everton size. I'm not saying that Everton is a small club, but I think James can take Everton to another level, both on the pitch and off the pitch as well.
I think that's an interesting thing. Of course, Colombia love their football as well, so it'd be great to see more Colombians tuning into the channel, and of course buying shirts as well, which will help the club with revenue to try and compete even more so.
Definitely. You will see Everton will definitely start shipping some shirts to Colombia, because they're crazy about James. It's not that they're crazy about football, which they are, but James is just their wonder kid. It's truly amazing. You could tell that me running a Real Madrid-based page, they're a little bit insane in the sense that they see no fault of James' own when he plays bad. So they're crazy about James, and I'm sure that it will take Everton to another level from a marketing perspective, and I think this is brilliant for the club. Yes.
So all in all, a very good signing for Everton, it seems, Lucas.
Definitely, and I will pay close attention to Everton's matches from now on, because I'm truly excited about watching James play again, and even more so being coached by Ancelotti. I didn't follow Ancelotti very much after he left Madrid, but James was so brilliant for him during that second year for Ancelotti in Madrid, that this deal got me interested, because I gotta believe that James will once again be this big name in the world of football that he was years ago, and he didn't find that kind of level during the last 2 or 3 seasons, that Bayern never committed to a permanent deal for him after Ancelotti's departure from the German side. But I'm fairly sure that James will play well for Ancelotti, because he played well for Ancelotti in Madrid, and he played well for Ancelotti in Bayern. And as soon as he didn't find Ancelotti on the bench, is when he started playing a little bit worse. So I'm fairly sure that now that he has Ancelotti's back, he'll play better for you.
That's really encouraging to hear, and it'll be great to see how it pans out. It looks as though he could sign very soon. So let's just see what happens. As at the time of recording, of course, this could well come out by the time we put this up. It could be an Everton player, but it's been brilliant to speak to you, Lucas, and it's great to hear such encouraging words. And of course, for Real as well, best of luck for the season.
Thank you, James. You too. We'll pay close attention to you guys and support you as well. I don't have any team in the Premier League to support, and now that I have 2 former Real Madrid men and 2 players and men that I have good memories of, I'll be happy to support you guys possibly on your quest to maybe earn a place in the Champions League. If not,
that's the big ambition. I think probably
that's probably a little bit too big. Yeah, but the Europa League, I think you'll have a chance to compete for. I think
that's definitely, I think, the realistic ambition we need, I think, to get back into the Europa League again, which is the big step.
Yeah, and you never know. Maybe the 4th team in your league doesn't perform that well. I don't know if Manchester United won't be up to the task, or Arsenal or whatever, and all of a sudden this 4th place becomes a little bit more open. And we had in La Liga, we had Real Sociedad and Getafe fighting for the last spot in the Champions League until the last 2 weeks of the season. So if Everton starts playing well, and obviously the Premier League is a very competitive league, maybe if that 4th spot is a little bit open, you never know. You can never say never.
Yeah, well, hopefully, you never know. It's we've had a very difficult 20 years, so
yeah, I know.
It's time to get back up there. I think we'll do something decent, surely.
I'm sure that you guys will at least you will have fun with Ancelotti and James. Maybe I don't know, if your defense is not up to the task. Sorry, then it will not be because of James and Ancelotti. Then Ancelotti will have to find a different solution. But I think you guys will definitely watch some entertaining football with those 2 guys.
That's fantastic to hear, and it's been brilliant to speak to you as well, Lucas. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
It'd be great to speak to you again. Hopefully, maybe when we sign another player from Real, you never know.
Yeah, mid-season review or James, where we can share impressions or whatever on how he's played. I'm more than open for that.
That'd be fantastic. It'd be great to see you again, Lucas, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Jens.
And thank you guys for tuning in to this Scout Report. Of course, let us know your opinions on the upcoming signing of James Rodriguez. Drop us a comment, give us a like as well, subscribe for more great content. And also we'll have a little look at Lucas on managing Madrid as well. Check out his SB Nation page, and I think there's anywhere else we can find you, Lucas.
Well, just on Twitter and managingmadrid.com, and my Twitter handle is @Lucas Navarrete M. So make sure to follow me if you're interested in some Real Madrid news.
Yeah, well, I think I'm a big fan of Spanish football, and if any of you guys are out there as well, definitely give Lucas a follow. And until next time, guys, thank you for watching on the Toffee Blues.